Star Fox. I could, if this was debate class, I could get on both sides of the fence. I could get on one side and be like, hell yeah, Star Fox. Like, of course with the Wii, of course with the all sorts of fun stuff you can do with the tablet controller. You know, like, yes, like the right people are working on it. Like, yes, this you know, franchise is relevant. Like, if you're making Falco Amiibo, then we should have a Star Fox game. At the same time, this looks okay. And I mean looks. I'm not talking like looks like it's not fun to play, but really looks kind of bare bones. It reminds me of like Daytona USA. Like, you know what I mean? Like the environment, just in the environment, like it just looks.
It's the modeling.
Daytona
The lighting is good. The modeling is not
USA.
good. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like the mountains in the distance, how it's like indistinguishable. You're like, I can totally tell it's a mountain. It's not like it looks so bad that I can't tell what it is. But you're just like flying over. It's just uninspired sounds cruel. It's just like, it's a simple looking game.
You just coined a new criticism. We need a Daytona USA emote immediately.
I can't help it. I played, you know, I played Battlefront. I saw Uncharted. I saw, you know, just some games. We're talking about Horizon later. Just unbelievable looking games that are admirably, you know, running on console. Some of them. So. Yeah, that's like one concern. But again, I can sit on both sides because the other camp would say, who effing cares? Because this could potentially be really fun. Yeah. And most people are curious. Control well, question mark?
Yeah, and well, the visuals are weird because in a way it almost feels like, to a certain extent, it's like it's intentional. We'd like to be familiar. Like, I mean, you're talking about games that were made when like you only had a handful of polygons on a model. So it's like, in a way, some of those things seem to like evoke that, keeping that tradition, you know, like how those things looked. But it's like, it's also seems like it could be an excuse in certain areas. But getting into playing it, you kind of have to unlearn everything. Like all the stuff is there, but it's not where you expect it. Because so like your button, like your guns are are on triggers now, and your speeding and braking and barrel rolls are on the right thumbstick. And then you use the face buttons to do the barrel, not the barrel rolls, but you know, the U-turn and that stuff. And then you have the A button you use to turn into a little walker from Star Fox 2. But yeah, what's really cool though is that gyro control, and because one of the things that, you know, when you go back to Star Fox 64. Is you always kind of have to balance that, like, okay, I'm shooting at that guy, but when I'm aiming, I'm also turning into that. And so with the gyro, you're separating those two things. It's like you're using the thumbstick to turn, and you're using the gyro to aim. And I think for different people, you know, sort of how like I couldn't understand the paddles on the Xbox Elite. Like some people probably are going to have a hard time with wrapping their head around that. And it's like I'm doing this to move and all, or to shoot. But I honestly, like after just, you know, half of the stage, I felt like it was really working well. And it's like, this makes sense for Star Fox. Looking at the gamepad is a little like a weird thing. It's like they say you do it for precision or whatever. And so yeah, you do that and you're shooting at something, but then you don't see where you're flying. So you might be like going lower or something like that. But the way I only played the first level, they had I think 2 levels and then like a tutorial mission if you really didn't feel like you could figure it out. But it was very much like a throwback to the first Star Fox 64 level in Corneria, and you've got the water, you've got the hills, you're going under the arches, and so you have kind of that corridor that starts off. And it's very traditional Star Fox and kind of lets you get accustomed to that. Like remembers like, okay, yeah, you charge, lock on, all of that good stuff. And then the second part of that, you go into the all range mode. And that
with the tower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was different because they had these little spider guys coming out, and then that's where you had to use that precision, where it's like, okay, you kind of line up like how you're going to fly into the situation. And then you look at the gamepad to like shoot the weak point in the center of them. And
you're saving your general or commander, the Bloodhound. What's his name? Is he a Bloodhound? What is he?
He's a Bloodhound. General Pepper.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah. So
context. So that's a good transition, actually, that level, because that's one of the things I checked. That's what the guy was playing when I walked over to check out Star Fox today. So we got these different modes. So we got in the trailer, you can see like a tank part where you're like strafing and you're like in the like desert environment. And, like,
Yeah,
these
and the
big
land
monsters
monster, yeah.
like coming up out of the sand. Yeah, boom, right there. And then you got your like chicken walker segments, and then
No. Chicken walker you can do anytime.
Right, but there are not segments, not like levels, but like it's if you want and you're in an open area, you can just drop in and start shooting stuff if you feel like it. But then there's some parts where like you have to go inside of a tunnel, and it's like you can't do this in a in a what are they called?
R-wing?
In an R-wing. Like you have to like go to your
Well,
walker.
and then the third section is actually the interesting part where.
But really quick before we move on, just remember third section. But specifically the old school, like you mentioned, Corneria, like that old school Star Fox 64s. A lot of the other modes seem like things that we still play today in games that are made today, whether they're like fun independent games or like AAA games. But that on rails ship up, down, left, right, or in the corners, dodging like the same canned thing coming at you, that Panzer Dragoon. Is that still fun? Is that something that you think can exist in 2015? Like, is that something that's is that jolly, Huber?
Yeah, we just did the Just Play It on Jamestown, and there's always room for
on rails.
Every type of game ever. That's my philosophy.
Oh, I'm down for any type of game ever. I'm just talking about, with it almost seems like everything with Nintendo. It's like how much money is this going to make them? How good is it going to do so well that we're going to get another Star Fox after this, or is it just kind of like another weird experiment for Star Fox and then it goes on the shelf for 6 years?
I mean, given the
Sorry, I didn't mean to affect you emotionally.
Given the slightly barren Wii U landscape for the rest of the year, I think and hope Star Fox would sell very well. It's coming out holiday this year, so I think it's.
I can't get over this thought. Like I've wanted a new Star Fox for a long time. I thought it would look better than this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not somebody that obsesses over the way a game looks, but there's just this.
It hit you.
It
won't last forever. You'll get over it.
You'll
expect it. When we actually like sit down to play the game, you'll just know. Okay, that's what it looks like.
Well, actually, one of the things they said in the direct was it was partly inspired by Thunderbirds, and I've never seen I'm not like a big Thunderbird.
But that was like the franchise, right? Didn't he say the original? Like that's where you got the idea.
Yeah, but do you remember on the Super NES, like they had those like little like doll things, that kind of did look similar to that,
right?
And in a way, like the game looks a little bit more like it's trying to go for that. Like they're not real ships; they're like toy ships shooting each other,
like a Power Rangers episode, just like a real symbol. I got an Earth Defense Force vibe when I saw it for the first time.
Yeah,
which again is not necessarily a bad thing.
Daytona USA situation.
It's one of those things. That's a fun game. You have a good time.
But
that's one game that gets a big reaction from the GT staff.
It is, and I love Earth Defense Force, but Earth Defense Force usually comes out at an appropriate price point from a very small publisher. This is Nintendo reviving a franchise that people have been clamoring for a super long time.
And you can't fly around, and you don't have the game pad support in something like
that's true.
Earth Defense Force,
that's
and
true.
No Slippy.
I don't know if you said it earlier. I think the best word though is barren. Everything that just looks so barren.
More room for the ship combat.
Yeah,
you don't want anything getting in your way.
I'll agree with that with like trees and stuff like that. There's still like little cardboard pop-ups, and that's why I think like maybe it is kind of trying to do this toy aesthetic to a degree.
So really quick, the third type or the third thing you were talking about.
The third section was the boss fight, and that's the thing that you see. This kind of like the ship with the little satellite dishes and stuff on it, and so I think that you can just fly around the ship and take it out that way. But there's also like what they showed you. What you can do is you can knock off a section of that ship, and then there's like the hallway that goes in around the ring of it. And so then you fly into that hallway. You go into chicken walker mode, and then you walk into the core, and then you're shooting the core. You're shooting the little rods on the core, and again, that's another point where I felt like, having the gyro and the stick separate is like really helpful because I can dodge these bullets and keep shooting at what I'm shooting, and I took that thing down in no time.
7 minutes 10 seconds. Context: if you watch the live stream, sorry, we're recording it. Just played now. You had a very impassioned sigh before I went back
Ben
to blood.
is sad. I'm
I
getting
think we
really
want.
I'm not sad.
I want
I'm just
Ben
like
to wrap this up.
sometimes I'm just trying to process how I feel about something, and I feel like I'm going through that with Star Fox right now because a lot of the things Bloodworth is saying sound good. They sound like super smart decisions. Were there ever times where you were forced to look at the gamepad and that like it was being like kind of automated for you on screen, and you
that was with the when you're flying around the outside of that ship, that third part.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like the plane is a little bit on autopilot. It's weird. It's like a cinematic camera angle, so that like you're seeing the side of the R-wing while you're flying around, and then you look at the gamepad to like focus on like shooting that like little satellite dish on the side.
Just my gut reaction, and I'm not saying it's like this, but I immediately think of Metroid Other M and the moments where you were forced into a first-person perspective, and it just took me out of it. It was jarring, and I hope that Star Fox Zero does not have those moments.
Fingers crossed. And like a lot of the stuff that Nintendo brings to the show every single year, playable. You gotta wait in line, but you can just get up there and check out Star Fox.
So Nintendo has a lot of the nostalgia, has a lot of these properties. Is this a classic Nintendo situation where all of you are just like, Star Fox, I'm going to buy it?
But at the same time, another classic Nintendo situation is you underestimating one of these games, and then you get it, and you're like, oh damn,
Yeah.
it's just really fun.
That's
like,
a good point.
Or they just picked a really simple demo level that they knew people would access that didn't have buildings you'd crash into. That was just kind of this wide open like introduction to the game. But then it just gets bonkers.
Yeah.
We also didn't get a lot of space stuff, right?
Well, I didn't play the other level, so I don't know. It was called Area 3, so I think it may have been
But even that was the same thing where there's like a station and you got to protect it. It looked like you were kind of flying around a structure from the gameplay that I've seen. So just that classic while you're in space, like going through
Seriously,
asteroids and
Star
stuff.
Fox,
and flying,
next gen space. I want to be flying through black holes, coming out in the center of the universe, blasting other
we got a
ships.
new installment on the Wii U of Mario Kart, and we were all like, "What the hell?" Like it was just like the Wii U blossomed.
And that's the thing. It's so frustrating because the Wii U is capable of evoking those responses.
So we'll see. So we've seen such precious little, I think, of this game, but we did see it, and that was a nice victory for us at E3. And you paid close eye, Mr. Bloodworth, and I appreciate it. Good job, everyone.
Star Fox.